Okay, welcome back. We are going to be picking up our next tutorial on Illustrator, and we're going to be building on what we did with the Elmo and the Cookie Monster tutorial. This time we'll be creating Kermit the Frog, and we'll be using a couple of new tools, mainly the Direct Select tool and a little bit of the Pen tool to get a handle on something called Bezier curves. All right, so open up Illustrator, and we're going to open up a new file. So Command N for new, or File, New. We're going to go with the same setup we've had in the past. So pixels, make sure that you have pixels selected first. Once you've got that okay, then you put in your 1000 and your 800. Okay, so 1000 wide, 800 pixels, and everything else can stay the same. And click OK. Here's our first look at our workspace. We're going to reset our workspace so that we're looking at the same thing. So if you remember up here where it says Essentials, you've got a couple of options here. You're going to make sure you have Essentials selected. If you have one of the other ones selected, you're going to change that to Essentials, and then you're going to reset Essentials. Great, so now we should be looking at the same thing. We're going to pop open this little arrow here to open up the palette so we can see what we're working with. Okay, so as we did last time, we're going to start with a circle, and we're going to draw a circle about this big. Now it needs to be centered, so I'm going to open up my Window Align palette and open up the options. Remember that there's a little, for some reason, there's a little hidden options thing. We want to show these options, and we want to align this to our artboard. Align to artboard. Once we've done that, while we have this circle that we just created, while we've got it selected, we've got the blue handles here, I'm going to center align it, and I'm going to horizontally align it, so that, or vertical align it, so that it's aligned in the center of my screen here. Okay, I'm going to close that for now. We'll get it back later if we need it. All right, now we've looked at this tool, the move tool. You remember or the selection tool. You know that we can pick things up and move them around. Undo that so that it's still centered. But this is the tool we're going to be looking at today. Notice that's called the selection tool, and this is called the direct selection tool. Okay, so well, what does that do? Let's start off with a little rectangle here for demonstration purposes. You don't need to do this, you can just watch. All right, so if I take my selection tool and I select off of this and I pick it up, you can see it picks up the whole item and moves it around. I'm going to make this another color just so that we can see it a bit more clearly. Great, so I pick it up and I move it, and it moves the whole thing together. Direct select, on the other hand, does something different. And notice when I've got this selected, all of the blue lines and the bounding box show up, right? The transform handles. When I select the direct selection tool, I'm going to click off of it. What happens is you can see here that this square is basically made up of 4 points, and then it's connected with some segments. So basically this is just a set of 4 dots and some lines to make a square. Well, the direct select tool, if I select around one of these, you notice that that's got a blue square. This one has a blue square with a white center, meaning that this is selected. And what I can do then is I can select that corner and move it away. I can do that with any of these selections. I can select 1, I can select 2, I can select, if I'm careful, 3, or 4 if I decide to do that. Okay, I can also just pick up a segment, okay, one of the lines. So direct select gives me a bit of control over the actual shape of whatever it is I'm creating. Feel free to pause this video and make a couple of shapes, and then try to do that. Go to the direct select tool, okay, and see how you can affect your shape. Okay, notice if I click in the middle, all of them are selected, and I can pick up at that point all of them and move them around. If I hold shift, I can deselect any one of them, and then when I move it, shift, and then when I move it, those move independently. So stop the video here and do a little bit of experimentation just to see how that works. Okay, you're back. All right, I'm going to delete this because we don't need this. Now that was a square, or a rectangle I should say. Notice what happens with the circle. The square was obviously made up of 4 dots and lines connecting them. A circle is a little bit different, but what you can see here is we've got, again, some anchor points which make this circle, and then we've got these lines here. And what you'll notice, I'm going to make this a color. What you'll notice is that we've got these lines that are connected here, but they're not actually part of the shape. Okay, what those are, they're called Bezier points. Okay, Bezier points. That's like this. Okay, Bezier points. All right, and what those do, put that back here. What those do is they give us a little bit of control over the lines that make this shape. So right now this is an oval, an ellipse. But if while I have my direct select tool selected and I grab one of these, I can pick up these corners and they affect the curves as they come through our different shapes. Okay, so you can see we have a little bit of control over how that works. I can pick up a anchor point, and then I can affect the Bezier spline or the control handle and make it a little bit of an organic shape. Again, feel free to stop the video at this point and give that a shot. Okay, select off of your graphic, find one of the anchor points, okay, and then pick up the Bezier and see what happens. And notice how it affects when I pull it away or towards the anchor point. See how it changes the curve. Okay, great. Now I've kind of lost that circle that I was originally working with, so I'm going to select all of this with my regular selection tool and delete that. I'm going to bring back my circle that I was working with. Again, I'm going to align it. Okay, I didn't do that in the palette, I actually did that here in the submenus. Again, there's lots of ways to do things in Illustrator, and that's just one of them. And we're going to make some modifications here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my direct selection tool. I'm going to select this anchor point. Notice that this is blue while these ones are white. So these ones are not being selected. I've only selected this. Now I can just pick this up and move it. I'm not going to move it by much. I'm only going to move it up a little bit. And I can do the same thing on the bottom, except I'm going to move it maybe a little bit more. Now you notice I'm staying sort of in the same horizontal up and down, sorry, the same vertical up and down plane here. I don't want to move it over. I want to keep it sort of straight up and down. Alright, so there's my sort of initial shape change. Okay. I haven't changed the Bezier points here at all, but I think I'm going to just tighten them up a little bit. Now, if I pull this in a little bit, you see it affects one side. I could try and bring this in and make it the same, or it's a little bit hard to do because you can't really tell exactly how far you've gone. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to show you a new tool. Here under the pen tool, if you click and hold, at the very bottom of this list is something called the Convert Anchor Point tool. Watch what this does. If I click on this anchor point, it takes away the Bezier splines. You'll notice that the line that was here, I'm going to undo that Bezier control handle there disappears. That's because there's no longer a curve coming out from this thing. The only curve that we have is coming from this Bezier spline and this Bezier spline. And because this line, this segment, connects here, well, there's a little bit of a curve here, but this no longer has a connection, has a control handle. What I'm going to do is with this selected, I can actually click and drag. Don't go this way because that's the wrong way. I'm going to drag out, and now what you'll notice is that I can have a bit more control about how far or how close that curve is because these move at the same time. So I'm going to do this. Now I don't want it to be on any angle, so I'm going to hold Shift, and what that's going to do is going to lock it into one horizontal plane. All right, there we go. That's actually that's not right. I'm going to go a little further than that, maybe around here. That looks okay to me, and I'll change it later if need be. Back to my selection tool. All right, well I've got this selected. We're going to bump up the weight here. We've got a black stroke. You should too. If you don't, maybe make that change. I'm going to bump this up to say 10. Oops, 10, like that. All right, looking good so far. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to make another oval. Sort of start around here. Now I kind of guesstimated on getting these aligned, but I don't want to guesstimate. I want things to be exact. So I'm going to use my selection tool, select both of these, and while they're selected, you should see this up here, horizontal align center, and I'm going to align them. Looks like I was pretty close. Notice what happens if I was a little bit further off. There we go. Okay, that aligns them together. Great. Click off of those. Sorry, my mouse keeps moving. My cursor. All right. So select off of those so nothing is selected. We're going to get rid of the, we're going to flip these so it's a black fill. We're going to get rid of the green stroke here. And we're going to change this to almost like a dark red. So double click this here, and we're going to go to like a dark reddish color. All right, once we've done that, click off of it and go to your direct select tool. With your direct select tool, you're going to click on the anchor point up here. Now, like you saw before, I can drag up and down, but I can also use my arrow key. So I can, on the arrow key on my keyboard, I can move one pixel at a time until I get to the position I want. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I want this to be a little bit curved, and I'm going to now grab, oops, let me do that. With my direct select, I'm going to find that anchor point. There it is. And I'm going to, again, move one pixel down at a time. Now, if I don't want to go one pixel down, I can actually hold Shift and the down arrow, and it'll move 10 pixels at a time. Right? So that moves things still under control, but a little bit more quickly. Right? So that's 10 pixels at a time, holding Shift and the arrow key, or one pixel at a time. Okay? So I'm going to go down to about there. And I think this actually needs to come down a little further, so I'm going to hold Shift and go down maybe 10 more. Okay. I'm going to grab this guy here, and again, Shift, left arrow key, and click this one, Shift, right arrow key, just to tighten things up a little bit. I'm kind of happy with that. I think that looks about right. Now, I've got a black stroke on this, so I think I'm going to stick with that and keep a black stroke on this as well. So I'm going to, while it's selected, okay, while I've got this shape selected, I'm going to double click this, choose black, and make sure you're, exactly black. If I'm down here, that's actually not quite black. It's hard to tell, but that's a deep, deep burgundy. What you want to do is get right down to the corner until this number is 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, that's the actual blackest color. Hit 0. Oops, that didn't work. Try that again. Oh, it didn't work because I don't have a stroke. So I'm going to actually just click here. Okay, so I actually just clicked here in the colors, and it added a stroke here because I had gotten rid of this. Anyways. All right, and I'm going to, while this is selected, bump this up to 10 so that it matches sort of the style that we're using here. Okay, so we've got a face and a mouth. Our next step is we're going to, let's create Kermit's tongue here. So we're going to make a, hold space bar on my keyboard just to give myself a bit of room, and I'm going to work over here for a second. He's kind of got a not quite a diamond-shaped tongue, but we're going to have to make a couple modifications to an oval. So draw out an oval, okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to click here and go back to our Convert Anchor Point tool, which again is at the bottom of this list, okay, and click. You're going to bring it just a little bit sort of that way. So I'm going to hold Shift so that it's in a horizontal plane, and I want it to be kind of sharp at the end here. I think that'll be okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and take a rectangle tool, and for now I'm just going to cut off the top and put it right here. Alright, with them both selected, I'm going to go to my Pathfinder tool window, Pathfinder, which you've used already, and you should be able to guess what I want to do here, because I've done it a bunch of times already, is minus front. Get rid of that. Alright, and there's our tongue. Now this should be, it's not quite the right color, so we're going to go, pink is probably, oops. Make sure I'm affecting my fill color. Pink is not quite right, but if I go maybe around here, something like that, that looks okay. And use my space bar and bring this over roughly into this position. Now that's obviously not what I want. I don't want that to be sticking up above his face. That should sort of be hidden by this line. So we're going to have to do a little bit of work to get that right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this tongue over here, and I'm going to make a copy of this. So I can either select it and go Edit, Copy, and then Edit, Paste, or while I have this tool, my select tool active, I can hold Option on my keyboard and just click and drag it away. It'll make a duplicate. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to be able to create this tongue here with the same curve, a matching curve to what's happening here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in the center, kind of so it's in the roughly the right position. I'm going to select them both so they're both selected, and then align them. Oops, I don't want to align them to their board. I want to align them to each other. This is something that we have to go to the Align palette for. And here where it says Align to, we can actually change that to Align to Selection. And instead of aligning it into the center of the screen or our work area, it's actually going to just align to the two things that are selected. Let me show you. And that's obviously no longer aligned, right? That's off. I select those two and I align it. It now aligns to the two selections. So these are now aligned. Now I want this tongue to match that curve. So I'm going to select them both. I'm going to go to my Pathfinder and I'm going to select this. Okay, this is going to leave the two, sort of where the two intersect, where they overlap each other. It's going to leave that piece and get rid of everything else. So I click this, intersect, and that gives me the curve that I want. Okay, now I can bring this over here, spacebar, and if I pick it up by, I dragged it over here so I can deselect it. If I pick it up by this anchor point and drag it over to here, I can snap it to the anchor point that was on this shape, and now it's aligned properly. Okay, and there's our tongue. Next, we need to add some eyes. Now I think I've left enough space up here, so I'm going to make some eyes. I'm going to click off of everything so nothing is selected and reset my colors to white and black. I'm going to make a ellipse, probably about there. And I'm going to, let's bump this up while we're at it. Right. And now what's going to happen is this is going to be his eye, but the way it works is, you know, this sort of looks like a ping pong ball cut in half. If I just place it here, it doesn't look quite right. So what we've got to do is modify the shape. It's almost like you're looking down on half a ping pong ball. So some modifications here. Go to my direct select tool. I want to select just this, and I'm going to bring it up a little bit, like that. And let's see, I think I might just angle this in a little bit. Angle that in a little bit. That looks about right. Just about. Maybe a little bit sharper here. That looks okay to me. Okay, so I'm going to pick this guy up and I'm going to drag him over to here. And then remember, if I get close to this corner here, if I go here, it's going to make it bigger. But if I go just a little bit away from that corner, I can rotate it into position. That looks about right. Maybe a little smaller, maybe make it a little bit bigger. Okay. But before I do that, I actually want to make the sort of the black, what would be a pupil, I guess. So I'm going to undo a couple of steps and put this back over here so that I can make the pupil. Now that's a pretty simple thing to make. I'm going to go here, grab an ellipse tool. I actually want it to just be black. So I'm going to flip that so my color is black, and I'm going to get rid of the stroke. So I don't want that. And I'm just going to draw a circle. If I hold shift, so notice that's an oval or an ellipse. If I hold shift, it's going to make it a perfect circle. So I'm going to do that. I want it to be about that big. Drag it into the center here. That looks okay. I can fix it afterwards if I want. And then I need a little bit of a curve here. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm probably going to, there's a few ways to do it, but I think I'll just go with a rounded rectangle. I'm going to make kind of a pill shape like this. That would be a rectangle if I kept going, but I only want it to be sort of like that. All right, that looks okay. I'll align that there. I think that'll do for my Kermit. I think it might be a little bit high, so I might maybe bring this up a little bit. Maybe use my arrow keys. That looks okay. All right, I'm going to select all of this. I'm going to right-click it, and I'm going to group it. That means that when I pick something up, any one of these pieces, they're all going to come together rather than me having to move each one independently. That's one piece. Okay, now let's place his eye here. You know, rotate this a little bit so I get to kind of the right position. And size, that's a bit small. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Again, notice if I just pick up a corner and stretch it, it can go kind of wonky and get distorted. But if I hold Shift, it'll keep the same aspect ratio, so it'll stay kind of the right shape without kind of getting squished in any direction. So hold Shift while you do that. Okay, there's one eye. Now I want the other eye to be exactly this, but flipped. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to go Object, Edit. No, sorry, I was right, Object. And I'm going to transform and reflect this. Now what that's going to do, I'm going to do this once the wrong way and then once the right way. So if I reflect this, it's going to say, how do you want to reflect it? Do you want to reflect it up and down? Do you want to reflect it over? Or do you want to do it on some weird angle? So here's what I'm going to do so you can see what's happening. If I preview this, you can see that it flipped it, right? So that was originally this way, and what it's doing is it's flipping it vertically, and you can see that sort of just flipped the opposite, like kind of over, right? If I did this instead, it flips it upside down. That's not what I want, so I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to, again, Object, Transform, Reflect, and what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to hit Copy, okay? Because if I hit OK, it will just flip that specific eye, but I want to leave that eye there. I want to make a copy of it. So there, now I've got two versions of this eye, and I can place them in line with each other. All right, there's my Kermit. I think that's looking pretty good. I might select them both. Just make sure that they are kind of high enough. I think that looks okay. All right. Okay, so one last little thing is we're going to just put, I want to show you the pen tool. I'm just going to put, there should be like a little black, almost like a triangle here. So I'm going to zoom in down here, and I'm just going to, with the pen tool, kind of find the middle of this. I'm going to click once, twice, 3 times, and then close this. And I'm going to make it so that instead of a white triangle with a black stroke, I'm going to flip that and get rid of that white. Double click my magnifying glass or Command 1, and there's my Kermit. When you're done, save your file, call it Kermit, and save it on your desktop. Oh, I don't know where my work is. Anyways, okay, you know where to save it.